Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crime Center, where I talk about everything crime related. Today, I'll be telling a sad, shocking story. But before I get into that, hit the like and subscribe buttons to show me love for the work that I do. If you are intrigued by everything crime related, then you've come to the right place because it's all that I do. I also welcome your suggestions for videos. If I choose your idea, I'll give you a shout out and cover that topic in the next video. Now, on to the story. The Whittaker family was described by others as a picture perfect family. In their 20s, Houston natives Kent and Tricia would meet on a blind date. The spark was there almost instantly, and they would later get married. Later, the Whittakers decided to move to a small city to raise their two children, Bart and Kevin, in Sugar Land, Texas, in a well to do neighborhood. It was described as a picture perfect community. Tricia Whittaker, an elementary school teacher, was known as a warm and caring soul. Her nurturing spirit touched the lives of many students during her years in the classroom. She had a passion for education and genuine love for helping others learn and grow. Family and friends described her as someone who always wore a smile, radiated kindness, and compassion. Her two sons were blessed to have a mother who loved them so much and raised them in what was described as perfect. Kent Whitaker was just as remarkable. A successful accountant and part owner of a construction company, was a devoted husband and father. On the blind date he had with Tricia, it would lead to a romance that would blossom into a loving relationship. Kent possessed a deep Christian faith that is described as unwavering, and he had deep compassion for life and family. Faith was a cornerstone in the Whitaker household. A little about both sons is required to fully get a picture of the family. The parents seem as perfect as it gets. So, what were the boys like? Let's start with Kevin, the youngest. Kevin was known for his compassion, just like his father, and his outgoing personality. Besides growing up in a perfect suburban setting, Kevin stood out as everyone's best friend. His kind hearted personality was felt by everyone who knew him. Bart, the eldest of the two, had a multifaceted personality. He was kind of like the black sheep in the family. He felt pressured to live up to his family's expectations, and on top of that, he felt unloved at times. The way he saw things, Kevin was the favorite and loved more. So, this sibling rivalry played a huge part in shaping his personality. Inside was a deep emotional struggle. Despite this, Bart had remarkable self awareness and was not afraid to voice these feelings. Bart was a very honest, outspoken person, and this stood out to those who knew him. Regardless of his emotions, Bart was very excited and in a celebratory mood. He invited his parents and Kevin out for dinner to celebrate his impending graduation. And as anyone knows, this is a huge accomplishment and deserving of a nice night out. The Whitakers would get together and celebrate. They enjoyed the family time, great food, laughter, and loving atmosphere. Later that night, they would call it a night and head home. Upon returning home at around 8:20 p.m., they would all walk to the front door with Kevin leading the way. As Kevin opened the door, a gunshot rang out, and Kevin would be deceased almost instantly. His mother, who was right behind him, would also be fatally wounded. The father would be shot. He was wounded, but would ultimately survive. He tried rushing into the house to stop the attacks on his family, but had his shoulder shot, shattering his humerus. Bart would rush in right behind his father and end up struggling with the intruder. He too was shot in the arm, and the intruder would escape. In the aftermath, both Bart and Kent would survive the shoulder wounds, but Trisha and Kevin would not survive their chest wounds. This night would change the Whitaker family forever. The police would start an investigation into these crimes and originally believed this was an interrupted burglary. Later clues would challenge this theory. According to the police investigation and court proceedings, this is what happened to the Whittakers on the night of December 10th, 2003. The killer had come up with a master plan as he thought of it in his mind. He had hired two men to dispose of the Whittakers. These two men were Chris Brashear and Stephen Champagne. Brashear was to be the shooter and Champagne the getaway driver. Brashear, dressed in all black and a ski mask, entered the Whittaker home, took Kevin's gun and ammunition from a locked box in his room. He then staged a burglary and waited at the front door for the Whittakers to come home. Kevin entered the family home first, and it was reported later he smiled when he saw the masked Brashear. Why he did that, no one knows. I don't think anybody ever will. Brashear shot Kevin once through his chest, and Kevin fell to the floor. Trisha was then also shot in the chest, also falling to the floor. That's when the father, Kent, would rush in, getting shot in the arm, and Bart behind him, also getting shot in his arm. Brashear would then exit through the back door, jump over the fence into the neighbor's yard, and escape. Kevin died within minutes of being shot, and Trisha shortly after the start of her air flight to the Memorial Hermann Hospital. Bart would tell first responders he thought the man was black. As police investigated, the killer would be busy. He would leave for Mexico in June of 2004, roughly 6 months later, using $3,000 to persuade an acquaintance to assist him. He would assume a new name, Rudy Rios, and find work in a furniture shop in Cerralvo, Mexico. He developed a relationship with a woman and lived under that false name for over a year. On September 15, 2005, a capital murder warrant was issued for the killer. The acquaintance who had assisted him to flee became aware of award money that had been offered for his arrest, and he would go and let the police know of the killer's location. Cooperating with U.S. authorities, Mexican authorities arrested him without incident under immigration charges. In September 2005, the killer was handed over to U.S. authorities at the border town of Laredo, Texas, where he was arrested for capital murder. The games were now done, and Bart Whittaker would now face the music. He was the killer who had his family taken from this world. At trial, Bart would try to get a plea deal in exchange for a guilty plea. This would be denied by District Attorney John Healy, and instead he would be tried for capital murder. It was later learned the motive for the killings was financial. Bart stood to inherit about $1.5 million after the deaths of his parents and brother. It was noted at trial that Bart had access to an $80,000 trust fund from his grandparents, but he admitted not knowing he could access it. Bart's father, Kent, had forgiven his son and those involved and tried at the time of trial to persuade the jury not to deliver the death penalty. After deliberation, the Fort Bend County jury convicted Bart of capital murder. After 2 hours of deliberating, Bart was sentenced to death. Now, the bigger story here is the father's forgiveness. Despite losing his wife and son, he would fight to save Bart from execution. It was reported he would visit his son on death row, touching hands through the prison glass. Bart's legal team would appeal with no success, even after Kent, including a letter of appeal. Kent would also write a letter in the public forum of the Houston Chronicle asking the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles to, quote, spare my son. Board Chairman David G. Uteres would also meet with Kent for a half an hour. On February 20th, 2018, in a rare decision, the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles recommended that the death sentence be commuted to life. They gave that recommendation to Governor Greg Abbott. The 7-member board unanimously recommended clemency to the governor. The first time it had done so unanimously since 2009. Governor Greg Abbott would commute the sentence. This was the first commutation of such a sentence by Abbott and the first from a Texas governor since 2007. Bart still sits in Texas prison today, serving a life with no parole. It is reported his father still visits him to this day. This goes to show the complexity of emotions that parents can have for their children. For him to forgive his son after his son took his wife and his other son is crazy. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate the love and support. Please hit the like and subscribe button so you can be notified of future videos. I do this to still tell stories, and your support gives me the motivation. Thanks for watching Crime Center. Until next time, see ya and stay tuned.